Some of you may recall a short while ago, a video game company reached out to me called Cosmic Perspective Studios. They somehow found my channel on YouTube and discovered that I'm a fan of arena first-person shooters such as Quake and Unreal Tournament, and decided to reach out to me personally to play and review their game called Enherjar Synergy. It's a brand new free-to-play arena first-person shooter game which you can find on Steam. I'll leave the link below and you can try it for yourself, which talks an incredibly big game, saying things in their email such as, Enherjar was designed by a Major League pro. It is our intention to create arena shooter perfection, where we remove all gameplay imbalances that are found in every other traditional FPS. To which my reply, of course, I will 100% play this game. Thanks for reaching out. I will be streaming it on my Twitch channel and I shall proceed to make a YouTube video using that content considering you so graciously asked. Considering the tagline Arena Shooter Perfection, you have my interest. Cheers. Dylbo. Considering the size of the balls these developers have to claim that they're intending to create arena shooter perfection, after so many have come before it with the likes of Quake Champions, Diabolical, Zonotic, and Warfork to name a few, each of which have failed to bring this once great genre back to the mainstream, I was skeptical yet excited to see what it had to offer. So I dove right in, live on Twitch, an honest first impression with an audience to boot, and here was my initial reaction to the game.
3.
Oh, match starting. Okay.
1. Begin.
Oh man, my eyes are killing me. Was that a kill? I have no idea. What the fuck is this game? Man, can I turn off this horrible, dirty filter looking thing, because this is horrible. Is this song gonna get me DMCA'd? My god, sorry, I can't. This is fucked. Let's exit that. My god, my eyes are sore by staring into this thing. I get they want to try and be unique with their art style, but my god. Suffice it to say, I was not in the slightest impressed by that game. If you want to watch the whole video, the video is still up and it is linked below. To summarize my first experience with it, with what the game build was like at the time, it was a visual nightmare. The main menu was cluttered with all this visual pollution. It was really hard to navigate. The gameplay was aesthetically nauseating for many reasons, mainly due to the overwhelming use of incredibly bright neon colors on every surface and every in-game character, making it very difficult to know exactly what you're looking at. The heads-up display was a mess with way too much information that doesn't need to be there, and to make matters much worse, there was this dirty filter visor thing in-game which obstructed your vision even more than the environment did. I only lasted about 2 minutes in each game, and the games go for about 10 minutes because it was giving me just the worst headache and my eyes were hurting. It was a nauseating visual nightmare is the best way I could describe it, and I wasn't the only person to have this opinion either. Just look at this comment on my YouTube video. Hi, I'm Dash. I was also reached out to with the hyperbole these guys spew about taking over esports, being the most competitive FPS ever made, etc, etc. It was shockingly bad. Devs seem super sketchy to me as well. I have a hard time believing there's not something weird going on with the software in general. Anyway, I uploaded that video and deleted the game, and I didn't think I'd hear anything of it again because look at my subscriber and Twitch follower counts, right? Why the hell would anything I have to say bear on anything the developers want to do with this game? Well, here we are. Somebody commented on my video recently saying that the game has since been updated and all of the visual effects have been changed as well, with a link to a video of the developers playing the most recent build. I'm suspecting that comment on my video is somebody from Cosmic Perspective Studios, but I have no proof. So whatever, it doesn't matter. The important thing is, they've taken feedback from somewhere and they've made these improvements. My wife and I watched the video, and much to our surprise, after reading this comment, we were very much impressed with the fact that it looked so much better. Despite my reply to that comment, I still wasn't totally convinced to replay the game to see if any of the changes were ultimately worth my time. Considering the current landscape of modern arena first-person shooters is in a very different place at the moment, because it's being dominated by Splitgate and Halo Infinite's multiplayer, which are both tremendous successes, because of course Halo is popular, but special shout out to Splitgate for being something entirely new and unique and is doing so bloody well at the moment.
In the lead. Double kill.
Oh, fuck yeah! Yeah! Arena FPS games at this point in video game history are very different to the games that inspired them from the 90s, and that's okay. I'd personally love a resurgence of Arena FPS to make it back to the mainstream. Could you imagine what the world would be like if we've got a brand new Quake and Unreal Tournament games, and they were at the height of popularity among games taking places of Fortnite, Warzone, Apex Legends? We'd all have flying cars. World hunger would be a distant memory, and we'd be living in total and utter paradise. But that's not the case. The truth of the matter is, it's hard for anyone to make a brand new Arena FPS game which takes inspirations from the classics and introduce something new and unique and have it succeed. It just doesn't happen these days. I'm looking at you, Diabolical. Where was I going with that? Right. Despite my reply to the comment, I still wasn't totally convinced to replay the game to see if any of the changes were ultimately worth my time, until I checked my emails. On the 17th of November this year, 2021, I received a lengthy email from Cosmic Perspective Studios addressing the concerns they had about my YouTube video and my Steam review. My Steam review was incredibly honest, just like my previous video and this video you're watching now. But mainly to my surprise, they had actually watched my video and read my Steam review and have actively made changes to their game based on my criticisms. They were not happy about my criticisms because several times throughout the email they have respectfully asked me to take down my video and Steam review because they feel that my reviews are no longer accurate to the current build of our game, and we as developers have made real efforts and changes to the game for that issue. They go on to say, it's important because we are trying to launch a new Arena FPS game, which isn't necessarily a thriving genre, and the reviews do hurt the chances of getting the game off the ground. There's a large percentage that won't even download/try the game just because they read a bad review, and it drastically weighs in on someone's perspective and decision before they download a game. I believe, like myself, you are a passionate FPS player. Please remove the reviews. We might have a better shot at actually making arena first-person shooters popular, and as you can see, we are actually providing real developer support with regards to our community's input. And to that I say, you're right. People won't try a game, or watch a film, or eat at a restaurant if there's bad reviews. But that's what reviews are for. Feedback. Feedback which you as the developer can choose whether to take on board or ignore altogether. To which I immensely respect your effort in actively taking on board these honest criticisms and making changes based on that feedback. As you've mentioned in your email, like myself, I am a passionate FPS player. It's in the name, DylboFPS. Mainly because just Dylbo was taken, but still. And I would love, honestly love, if arena first-person shooters were to be made popular again. And if you, Cosmic Perspective Studios, and this game were responsible for that success. Wouldn't that be brilliant? But you've given me two options here. Take down or make a new review on YouTube and Steam. I've decided to do the latter. Asking somebody to take their reviews down is real shitty, but I understand why you asked because of the reasons we mentioned earlier. I do get it, but it's not happening, and I'm not going to dwell on it. What I will do is download the current version of the game and give it another try, and the rest of this video is going to be my open and honest experiences and feelings towards the current build of Enherjar Synergy. Before we get into it though, I do want to reiterate that I deeply respect your willingness to watch my video, respond to me personally, and defend your game and its ideas tooth and nail, and that you genuinely believe that you have something special here with Enherjar Synergy. I admire this a lot. I have a hard time telling people that I actually stream or make these videos or play music, etc. For you to come out directly and say, "Play the game, motherfucker, it's going to be the best Arena FPS game in esports history." Okay, that's a little over dramatic, but you get the gist. That takes huge balls, and I admire huge balls. Anyway, I've re-downloaded Enherjar Synergy, and let's see what's been changed. So, headphones are on. Let's dive into Enherjar Synergy once again. I'm actually really excited to see what this game has to offer now, because the last time, as I mentioned earlier, it was a headache, so I'm really keen to see how this plays now. And as I said, I'm going to keep it honest, I'm going to keep it truthful, I'm just going to spit out whatever I'm thinking. Enherjar Synergy XC is not... Oh! I thought we were about to have a crash then. Is it working? Hey! So this hasn't changed. I do still like the music in the background. There's still a whole bunch of shit going on here. What do we have here? Announcements. Welcome to the CPS Higher Dimensions, new map, Asgard Valhalla. Yada yada yada, tournaments, etc, etc, ranked. There's still so much bloom going on here. I'm not sure whether this has been changed. I don't think it's been changed. Anyway, tournaments, the Zenith of Esports, designed by Major League Pro Cloud Darkson. Who is Cloud Darkson? Like, I've Googled Cloud Darkson, and there's no information anywhere as to who this person is and to what level of esports competitiveness that they've played at. Nobody knows this. If you're going to be telling us that it's been designed by an esports pro, who's the esports pro? And if Cloud, I don't know. Anyway, so let's see if we can play. Where do I go? Is it okay? So. Lucidity, Superior, Xeno, Parasidio, Cosmos, Custom, Start Matchmaking. Skill, welcome to the arena. You are on your way to climbing the ladders. So this has got a ranked mode now. You only have one shot. Yep. Duels, okay. So it starts out with ranked and duels mode. This looks a lot better. It's still a bit choppy down the edges here. Like some of the designs in here are a little crummy. So I've loaded in and I'm facing the ground. Okay. What? This fucking dirty visor thing is still here. What's this filter thing? This filter thing hasn't gone. Why is this still here? It's fucking gross. Get rid of it, please. Please get rid of this shit. Look at this. That's messy. I don't want to look at that. I will admit, it's better than it was. The movement, I will give it credit here. The movement feels great. This feels kind of cool. Whilst making this video, I recorded an hour's worth of gameplay where I fired the game back up and I had similar complaints to the first time as if nothing had changed. The visuals were still weird. It still had that dirty filter on it. But then I reread your email. Your email says, the visual effect that I was complaining about is called Bloom Dream Vision Crystal. In our settings menu, it's our new default and the entire game's lighting was reworked specifically to attend to this change. Now I know that this can be changed in-game, which is what I asked for in the first place. Let's fire the game back up and see how it plays and see how it feels. So what I didn't realize when I played it earlier today is that in the settings here, you have your Bloom Dream Vision here. But the problem here is that I didn't know what this means, because see here, you've got a demonstration of the resolution. I believe that you should have a demonstration of what each setting looks like, so that way people can pick and choose what they want. Because by selecting these, there's no indication as to what they look like. So the new normal is Crystal. So let's load in with Crystal and see how the game looks and feels. Let's play free-for-all. Okay, so we've loaded in. There's no dirty filter.
Light side takes the lead.
Okay, look at this. Look at this. There's no... I mean, the bloom is still out of this world. That is still way up there, and the environments are super dark, but I can see things a little bit better now. Let's swap to the shotgun. Oh my god, that's still very bright, but it's much better. Oh man, I've been playing this for what, 20 seconds now? And this is already 1,000 times better.
Quantum computing.
I appreciate that you now have the option to change it. For those who do want to play with it, they can select it. I don't think anybody would actually want to play with that setting on, to be perfectly honest, but this is a much better experience. So I still feel that there is still too much visual nonsense going on. Like, there's my play character to the left of the screen. That doesn't need to be there. I understand that the health and armor pools down the bottom left need to be there, but the character model, that doesn't need to be there. To the right, we have our options for what weapons we have. So if we press Q, we've got the Cosmicalis. I don't even know how to say it. We've got 2 shots out of that, and then it's empty. Why is there only 2 shots out of that weapon and then it's gone? So we load back in with the Cyberlink, which is essentially the plasma pistol, which you can essentially spam because there's no reloading. And there's no weapon cooldown, so you can just click, 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 click until your heart's content. We scroll down, we now have the Sun and Moon, which is this game's version of the shotgun, which also never seems to run out of ammunition, which you can also sort of spam, and you never run out of ammunition. The other weapon I've noticed which never runs out of ammunition, if you press F... Oh, we don't have it in this game. This mode, okay. In other modes, there is a gun called the Fire Splitter or Fire Spitter or something like that, which is essentially this game's version of the minigun, which is also not needing a reload, or it never runs out of ammunition or anything. You can just spam it for your heart's content. But these other weapons, you load to this, it's like a rocket launcher, so to speak. It's out in 2 shots. I swapped to whatever this is, which is the LPA. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's it. We go to the R. What? Oh, this is the D. So that's the DMG. That's the DMG. So what's the LPA? Oh, this is like a lightning, like a railgun. So there's 4 shots. 5. It's an incredibly slow-firing weapon, but if you want to spam it, you absolutely can do so by the looks of it. So, aesthetically, I still feel... I mean, every level is going to be different, right? But this one in particular, it's very dark. It's hard to really tell where to go or where anybody is, but it's much better than having that dirty filter over the front of it, over the top of it. Another thing that I'm feeling that I'm really enjoying about this game, now I can actually see where I'm going, you know, to a better degree than I could before, is the movement. What you've really done well here is the movement. Look, like, it's incredibly fast. You've got bunny hopping, you've got jump movement, you have air control. So when you're in the air, you can control, you know, where you're going left or right in order to dodge incoming attacks, which is really cool. So I think the movement is spot on. Although it's a little bit jank in parts, but I can forgive that, being an indie game only developed by a handful of people. But I think overall, the movement in this game is an absolute win. Another thing which I think is an absolute win for this game is the change in soundtrack. In the clip I had earlier, when I played this for the first time, you had that pop song playing in the background. It just felt way out of place. I didn't know where it came from. Wasn't sure if it was even licensed or not. But now we've got this ethereal sounding soundtrack, and you know what? I'm a fan. I think it suits the game's aesthetic and feeling, so I think it's a good addition. It is very loud in the ears, but you can always change the in-game volume in the settings, but I've just left it default for the time being. The enemies, the bloom effect around the enemies has been toned down, although it's still well and truly there. Like that, for example, but it's still a lot better than what it was. You can actually see the characters a little bit better now, which I appreciate. So, riddle me this. I use my other weapons like this, for example, and it runs out. But does it refuel when I get a kill? No, it doesn't. Or is it supposed to and it just didn't? I like that there is this element of weapon swapping, but I just feel that there's so many weapons in this game which you can just spam with no consequence, really, like this pistol, for example, or the shotgun. The pistol is really good for, like, you know, long shots. See, I'm just spamming that. There's no reason for me to swap to anything else, unless I really want to. Which I do want to, but the game doesn't really give me any reason to swap weapons, when you can just spam the same thing over and over if you really want to. I feel that there needs to be some sort of consequence for just spamming the same weapons over and over, and a little more freedom to use the other weapons that you're loaded in with, without them having run out so quickly. If you want to hit people from a distance, use the Cyberlink, which is a pistol, up close, shotgun. But look at this movement, man. This movement is so good. I just wish I could see the environments better. I feel like there's something special this game has to offer here, and I want to play the next game in a different mode, in a different level, to see what they look like without that ugly bloom filter thing going on. I don't understand these dots on the screen that surround my crosshair. Is that supposed to be my ammo count? Because it doesn't seem to reflect how many times I've fired. I don't really understand what that means at all. I like this trail effect that you've added to the enemies, so you can sort of see when they've taken a corner, there's this light that follows them. I think that's a pretty neat visual effect. Light team win. So I think that my team won that. So as you can see, the visual aesthetic can be opened up without this dirty filter thing over the top of it, and I think it's a much better experience. Let's play 4v4 Cosmos and see what this game looks and feels like 4v4 instead of being free-for-all without that filter over the top. Whoa, why is my mouse all of a sudden screaming? What the fuck is going on here? So I'm dropping to 15 frames, 30 frames, and my mouse is accelerated like crazy. Another thing that's really shitting me off about this is that I can't exit mid-game. I press escape and it says, please wait until matchmaking round is over. But I'm in the game, right? And look at this. This thing is running dreadfully. So I might actually close the game and reload it. So considering that last game that I was just playing was so busted, I've gone back in and I've had to reload into the game because for whatever reason, they've taken away the ability to exit mid-game, right? So I have to Alt F4, close the game entirely, reload in. If we look at our settings, we've got the Bloom Dream Vision set to Crystal. We've got our quality preset set to low, just to avoid any possibility of having any more dropped frames as best as we possibly can without affecting too much of the environment. So we're keeping details on. Now I just loaded in to a new 4v4 Cosmos game and I was loaded into the same level we were playing earlier. So I want to play a different level. So when I was playing this game earlier, when I played like an hour worth of this game to see how it felt now, when I still had the previous visual preset essentially, I was saying that I really wanted this particular level to be, you know, the filter to be removed so I could really see what it had to offer. I really wanted to know what was going on. Now, I've loaded back in after realizing that I can change the filter, and I can see this level for what it really is. Look at this thing. There is so much visual, there's so much artistic visualization going on in here. I can really appreciate this now. Like, I can see that there are definitely, there's definitely some issues with the texture alignment. Like if we look at this wall here, that looks pretty good. You know, the bloom effect is certainly toned down a lot more. We've got some piping here. We're definitely in a futuristic setting. I think we're playing free-for-all at the moment. But look at this. This is so much better now. I can actually see what's going on. I can see where the enemies are.
Quantum computing.
Now, one thing I did notice earlier is that some of the textures weren't quite aligned. Some of it was a bit messy still. And I guess that's okay. Like, if there's still more work to be done with this game, I appreciate a few textures being out of line. Because, you know, in the very small amount of game development experience that I have, which is literally just making Doom and Quake maps, there is an attention to detail you need about aligning textures to make sure they all fit according to plan. And that can be very tricky sometimes, especially when you're doing your best to build a level that plays well, but also then retrofit the level with aesthetics. In this case, the aesthetic focus is on this futuristic design and all of these neon lights and this bloom and all of this. But there is sometimes, I can see that there is a detriment to some areas when it comes to texturing. But I'm not going to focus so much on that. My main focus is on the actual gameplay itself and whether I can actually see things or not. And now, I can.
Archaic awakening.
I'm having so much more fun now playing this game in its current state than I was before. I like the fact that the pop music is now gone, that we've got this ethereal sort of soundtrack which fits the game theme so much better. I still think the bloom is way too high and that these textures are very dark. You know, there's obviously a massive emphasis on the neons sort of guiding you as to where you should go. But then out of nowhere, we've got this door, which is fairly brightly lit, but there's nothing to indicate that there is a light on it. It's just well lit. Now we've got the Firecaster. Another issue I've noticed, the Firecaster. Am I supposed to be holding a weapon here? Because when I load into it with the Firecaster weapon, which is an awesome weapon by the way, it's basically this game's version of a chain gun, I'm not holding anything, and I feel that there's an asset missing there. Anyway, you can load in, you can just spam people with it, It's OP. It's fun to use. Now, the thing I was saying before in the game I was playing earlier is that there is no incentive to use the other weapons, because you can just spam these weapons that don't require reloads or cooldowns or anything like that. So you can spam the Firecaster
Quantum computing.
with no issues. Then we scroll up and we've got the Cyberlink, which is the plasma pistol, which is a really good long-range weapon. And you can just spam that as well with no consequence. We scroll down, we've got the shotgun. Great for up close. Even from a distance, you're still getting the same damage output from a distance. But there's no reload or there's no weapon cooldown and no incentive to swap to anything else. Unless you really do want to experiment, but there's no real reason to do that. But we do have other weapons to choose from. Like if I go to this weapon, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Q. It's like this game's version of the rocket launcher. I fired it twice, and now I don't have any more ammo for it, so I have to swap back to the weapons that don't run out. If we then press R, which is the DMG, I'm not really sure what this is supposed to be. That's at 5 shots and now it's empty. I'm like spamming my mouse button. Nothing. We go to E, we've got the LPA. This is like a railgun. This has got a fairly slow cooldown on it. It's good for long range attacks. Does a decent amount of damage, 125 damage output. It's fairly slow to use, so there's no real reason why you can't just swap to the Cyberlink and hit people from the same distance and shoot them a lot quicker and do just as much damage output within a quicker succession, right? So where's the incentive for me to swap to this and shoot from this far away but shoot this slowly when I could just go to the pistol and then just go to town? I think there still needs a bit of work done with the weapon balancing with how they operate. I know in your email that you were defending the idea of having like weapons automatically loaded in, like weapon loadouts ready to go rather than finding them throughout the map. I think levels like this, where you've got multi-platform levels and you know, power weapons such as the Firecaster, the LPA and the DMG, I think this game would benefit from having them placed into the map where if you load on one side or the other, you know, the first person to reach that super weapon and to take control of the map. I think these levels do really lend themselves to that game design, but if you don't want to do that, that's fine. That's up to you, of course. It's your game. I just think that these weapons do, you know, with a bit of tweaking, will lend themselves to that idea really well. That classic, you know, Unreal Tournament and Quake 3 idea of being able to go to different parts of the map, pick up the super weapons and run rampant, but there needs to be a reason to use the super weapons, right? Like at the moment, you may as well just use the base weapons such as the Cyberlink, the Sun and Moon, and the Firecaster, because there's no cooldowns, there's no reloads, and they do a lot of damage, and there's no reason to use anything else. I will say, yes, they are fun, but there's no reason to swap away from them. I know this game at the moment does currently have aim assist on, and there is options to change that, and I think like in the future I will play it without it because I prefer playing without it, but it just allows for those really easy shots with a pistol from across the map. You know, like I'm doing just as much damage across map aiming at nothing as I would if somebody is much closer. So I think there needs to be this level of damage output difference when it comes to distance between you and an enemy. Like I'm getting 100% damage or 100 points of damage up close with the shotgun, but if I shoot from a shotgun from a distance, you know, medium range, I'm getting the same output as I would if I was up close. Another thing that I really like about this game that I talked about in the last game is the movement. The movement, like I can zip around this map so fast, and you've got like bunny hopping. It feels like there's like a good amount of bunny hopping that's available, and there is air control. So if you're going up against an enemy and they're firing at you with the Cyberlink or the Firecaster or pretty much any weapon, you can just bounce around, just dodging bullets left and right, and I think that's amazing. I think the movement in this game is really, it's probably its biggest strength. So yeah, my main criticisms is that the environment still needs a lot of work and a lot of spit and polish, especially the lighting design and the texture alignments. I think they need a lot of work still. So I've got no real nasty gripes about that at this point in time. I know that they can always be changed, and they will change as development of this game progresses. I think there needs to be you know, possibly a classic game mode where if you do want this game to primarily work with the function of loading in with all weapons at the beginning, maybe have certain modes where you start out with only the Cyberlink or something a bit less. Lower the damage output on the Cyberlink and make that your main. And then you load into the map and you have to race or rush to where the super weapons are on the map. That way you can dominate the map. Dominate the match, sorry. There is an excellent level of quick swapping here. When you get the weapons right, when you press the right button, they swap pretty quickly, so that way you're not stunted between any sort of reload animations or anything like that. And as a fan of Doom Eternal, I'm a fan of quick weapon swapping. But as I said before, there's just no incentive to really swap when you can just spam the shotgun or the Cyberlink or the Firecaster. I don't mind the idea of having the bright light indicate where your enemies and friends are, but I think that still needs to be toned down at least, because you've got these character models, but you can't see them. How about just making, say, like a colorful outline rather than like this bright light? I want to be able to see them. I want to be able to see the artistic value behind creating those character models when you're playing them in-game or versing them in-game. Anyway. This game, I still feel like it has a lot of work to go before it's really in a state to be expanded upon outside, you know, a few players, essentially. But I think it has a lot of potential, and I would love for this game to really gain popularity amongst, you know, the small pockets of arena first-person shooter fans that are floating around the world. I would love to be a consultant on this game, essentially. If you've got new updates, new changes to mechanics and things, if you want somebody to test them and give honest feedback, I'm happy to do that. I would love to be able to provide that sort of influence, essentially, if you're taking that sort of influence from me after this video, to improve this game, you know, beyond where it's at the moment. But I feel that with the ability to change the visual style by being able to remove that filter, I don't think that option should be there at all. I honestly think that 100% of players will not use it. It just doesn't seem like a good thing to include. It's just really, really bad and hard to see through. So I appreciate that there is now the ability to change and remove that filter entirely. The soundtrack is awesome. It's got this ethereal thing going on in-game and outside of game, which I really think fits the tone of this game. It's awesome. It's really cool. There used to be like this pop song that played, and I didn't understand why it was there, and I didn't like it. I don't like pop music at the best of times, but I will appreciate a good song when I hear it. And it just didn't feel right for this game. But I appreciate that that's been changed. That's a win. The different weapons and the loadouts, whether you're loading in or whether the weapons spawn in on the map and you can find them later, that's up to you. That's a staple of Arena FPS games where you can find the weapons that are in-game and then use them to your advantage to get a leg up on the opponent. But if you don't want that and you want it to be more level playing field from the get-go, that's entirely up to you. I'm not gonna change your idea on that. I just think this game and the weapons it has lends itself to have that old school Arena FPS layout with its game design. Enherjar Synergy, at this point in time, the 25th of November 2021, the current build is in a much better state than it was back when I first played it. And I do really appreciate the fact that the developers have taken on feedback from me and whoever else has played this game, have actively implemented changes to make those improvements, but most importantly, they're defending their game. And I admire that. That has been Enherjar Synergy. Thank you for watching this video. I will continue to play this game from now on. I'll be streaming it on my Twitch channel, which you can find the link for below, twitch.tv/DylboFPS. I also have a brand new podcast, weekly 30-minute podcast coming out very soon called The Dylbo Observation, where I'm going to be talking about games and movies and things that I've experienced. Any thoughts that I have internally, I want to make them external, so you can check out the links below as well once that becomes available. But it's been really, really refreshing to be able to play a game which I couldn't stand, and then for them to come back and say, we've made these changes, please give it another go, and it to be a much better experience this time around. I will reiterate, of course, that there is a lot of work that still needs to be done, but that's not to say that it's not going to change between now and in the future. So I'm really looking forward to see what this game has to offer in the future. Cosmic Perspective Studios. If you watch this, I appreciate the work that's going on, and I appreciate that you're defending your game and reaching out to people like me personally to say, we get it, his issues, and also defending the things that you believe are beneficial to your idea. That's totally fine. So thank you for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it. Happy gaming.